What is going on, ladder climbers? Antoine Wade from Elevate to the Unknown YouTube channel and blkheights.com here. And it is Thursday morning at 7 a.m. Central, and it is time for the Daily Climb. Guys, welcome to the show where we discuss real money, real career moves, Monday through Friday. And if you're new here, make sure that you hit the like button and drop your city in the chat. I want to know where you guys are tuning in from. I want to know who's all in the house. I want to know who's watching us. Guys, this is going to be a fantastic show. I woke up with a whole bunch of energy. I got my workout in. I woke up at 3:30 a.m. I'm telling you guys, I wake up early. Went to the gym, got my nice little workout in, and I felt good this morning waking up because of the fact that I know that today's show is going to be special. We're bringing in our first guest success story, a ladder climber from our community who completely transformed his career and is about to break down exactly how he did it. So you guys are going to get a chance to learn a lot about particular fields of study. You're going to learn a lot about this individual, and he's going to bless us with his knowledge. But first, let me give you guys the overnight business knowledge, because Cisco last night, they dropped some major news that affects the tech market across America. And guys, I was 2 minutes late to my own show, and my guests even, saw and witnessed this. I had to go and warm up my coffee. My coffee is extra strong this morning because we're going to be covering Cisco's earnings results and how AI infrastructure basically is booming for them. But they're also cutting 7% of their workforce. Plus, we got huge news about the job market trends that you need to know about. So, guys, make sure, as you always do, when you come into this show, hit the like button, because we're about to give you guys that business intelligence before you start your day. This also impacts your career. And then we're going to show you exactly how one of our community members used his, the kind of information that we share with you on this channel to transform his life completely. Okay, so that's going to be the show today. Let me see who's all in the house. We got NC Realtor in the house. We got MLC in the house. We got NC Worker in the house. We got Maurice Lee. Maurice Lee's coming to us from Milwaukee, guys. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I love it. I freaking love it. That's my alma mater. I went to UWM, Maurice. Loved the school. The Life of Cam is in the house, even though he's going to be on the show, coming to us from Tulsa, Oklahoma, guys. So, it's going to be a good show today. It's going to be a good show today. It's going to be a good show today. But most importantly, guys, hit the like button. Go ahead and share this with your friends and your family so that we can get started. But ladder climbers, let me jump into it right away. Okay. Wednesday night and Thursday morning, it brought some game-changing business news. And let me break down what happened. Okay. So Cisco beat earnings and expectations, but their stock dropped 2% because they're cutting 7% of their workforce while investing $2 billion in AI infrastructure. Okay. Deere, the tractor company, they are about to report earnings this morning, and it's going to tell us if manufacturing jobs are coming back or getting worse. You think about it, manufacturing jobs are coming back. You got a lot more tractors and a lot more machine equipment that John Deere makes, right? So if they beat earnings, you're hearing about the wave of manufacturing jobs coming back, then they should have an uptick in their earnings, right? Apple just announced they're investing an additional $100 billion in American manufacturing, which could create 450,000 jobs, guys. That is a lot of jobs. You're going to have people working for Apple. So Apple could be, if it hasn't been on your radar for potential employment opportunities, this should give you a sign. You should be looking at their websites on a daily basis going forward. You should be creating signals on Google Trend to determine when an available role opens up for Apple, because they're going to be doing a lot of hiring. And here's the big one. The big news this morning is this, guys. Okay? This is the big news that I want to share with you guys this morning. 70% of workers are actively seeking career changes right now, with successful career changers seeing 15 to 65% salary increases. Okay? So many of you guys want to change your career. Many of you guys want to do something different. Many of you guys are seeing how much money these AI engineers are being paid, and you're like, man, maybe I should be looking into this. Well, there's a transition that's happening right now. The people who are making the leap, the people who are sacrificing themselves right now to learn the skills that they need to learn, they are making significant salary increases when they do make the move. So if you are somebody who is on the fence right now, who, saying, oh man, I'm a project manager right now and I use AI, but I have a background in engineering. Maybe I should look into AI engineering. But you're probably saying to yourself, I don't know if I gotta go. I don't know if I want to go to schooling and do all this stuff again. Maybe it's worth the investment. Maybe it's worth the investment for the 60 or the 6 months or the 12 months so that you can get that big salary increase. Maybe it's worth the investment. Guys, if you guys are ready for the business intelligence, type let's go into the chat. That's what I wanted to type. Let's go into the chat. We're going to give you guys, going to break down a little bit more of what happened overnight and how it affects your career. And then we're going to bring in our first guest, a community member who went through, how he grew up and how he used, some of the challenges that he experienced in his life to lead him to success. And we're going to extract some strategies that we talk about every morning to share with you guys. So that's what we're going to be doing. But let me break down the overnight news, guys. Let's jump over to Cisco. Okay. I want to dive a little bit further into Cisco. All right. Cisco, the networking company, they connect the internet is basically how you should describe them. They beat earnings. They beat expectations, right? They made 99 cents per share versus the expected 91 cents per share. Revenue hit 14.67 billion. That's beating this 14.62 billion target. So they're making a whole bunch of money. They crushed it, or they exceeded expectations. When you exceed expectations, that's a good thing, right? You think about it. You are in school. Let's just say you're in school. The expectation is from your parents is that you get nothing lower than a B plus. You get an A, right? You beat expectations. You absolutely crushed it, right? Got rewarded. Everybody's happy. That's what happened with Cisco. They beat expectations. But here's what you need to know for your career. They are cutting 7% of their workforce while they are investing into AI infrastructure. Okay? They are cutting 7% of their workforce while their AI infrastructure orders hit 2 billion. So their AI infrastructure orders business is growing like crazy. But they're saying, you know what? We're still going to be making some cuts. And this is the new normal, guys. This is the new normal. What does this sound like? This sounds like Microsoft. Didn't Microsoft just do the same thing? Crushed it with the expectations, crushed it with earnings. Business is going through the roof. They laid off 9,100. This is the new normal, what companies are doing now. Companies are making more money than ever now, but they're using AI to replace workers while hiring AI specialists for massive salaries. That is the new norm now. So when I said to you earlier, are you going to be willing to make that sacrifice because of the 75, percent of people who are looking for job changes? If they do make the career change, they're getting anywhere from a 15 to a 65% salary increase. You should think about that. You should potentially think about that. Because if you make that salary, or if you make that change, if you make that sacrifice by putting your head down and studying for a good 6 months, good 12 months, your salary could be well beyond anything that you could have imagined. And here's the thing, is that that's the shift in the workforce right now. All these typical jobs are getting cut. All the normal jobs that we've been talking about over the years. Let me share this statistic with you real quick. This picture, they are getting cut, guys. The AI revolution is here. Check it out. AI revolution of hiring versus firing. AI engineers are making over $800,000 a year now. In traditional roles, they're getting cut 7%. That is the new norm. And this is what you need to know about your career. If you don't follow this trend, you may be one of the ones that end up getting cut. Companies are making more money than ever, but they're using AI to replace workers while hiring AI specialists for massive salaries. Think about your career. Think about what you want to ultimately do. Let's shift to another one of our favorite companies, Apple. Apple just announced an additional $100 billion investment in American manufacturing. This brings their total commitment to $600 billion over 4 years, guys, an average of close to $2 billion a year, 1.5. Now, what does this mean for jobs? And what does this mean for you? Well, 450,000 jobs supported across 50 different states. Now, Apple isn't going to just hire 450,000 direct jobs, but you got to think about everything that supports Apple. All the partners they have, all the manufacturing companies that they have, all the contract companies that they have. They have a vast ecosystem that helps them to build their products. And this is expected to create 450,000 jobs across all 50 states. Now, direct hiring, 20,000 direct hires focused on engineering and AI roles. So again, it goes back to engineering and AI roles. So if you're looking to make that change, maybe you should consider it. If you're looking to determine, and if you're looking to get to the money, maybe you should consider it. 20,000 direct hires focused on engineering and AI roles. Start looking into what those roles are. Maybe that's you who's getting to the money within the next 6 to 12 months. We have people who are making that transition right now who's part of the ladder climber community, part of the Heights community. Link in the description of this video. Check out the Patreon. In Apple's expansion, their major expansion is happening in Texas and in Kentucky. The beautiful state of Texas. I love Texas. This is where I am. And Texas is about to get a whole bunch of people making a whole bunch of money working on some parts of Apple products. Now let's talk about earnings that should be released later on this morning. Deere, the tractor company. John Deere, changed the name, whatever it is, to call themselves Deere now, right? They are reporting earnings this morning, and it's going to tell us about the manufacturing jobs. They're expected to make $4.62 per share, which is down 26% from last year. If Deere misses, expect more manufacturing layoffs. If they beat, manufacturing jobs might come back. It's just that simple. Okay? We also have the semiconductor industry, Applied Materials. They are a company that is going to be announcing earnings today. This will tell us if semiconductor manufacturing is where it is today. if it's growing. And with Trump 100% tariffs on imported chips, American chip manufacturing jobs could explode if companies like Applied Materials are doing well. Companies like Applied Materials, companies like Lam Research, all those are big companies that really help with the semiconductor chip making. They don't make chips themselves. They make the equipment that makes the chips. Okay. So if Applied Materials, if their earnings report looks good, then there may be a semiconductor boom here in the United States. They're already talking about it. That's supposed to be. I mean, I like to talk about the facts, what's happening, not what it's supposed to be. And that's why we do this show. Okay. Now, here's the pattern. Here's the pattern that I want you guys to understand. AR companies are hiring like crazy, and they're paying massive salaries. Traditional companies are cutting workers, but investing into technology. And manufacturing might be coming back to America. It might be coming back to America. We don't know yet. The signs are only going to tell us if we start to look into the data. And the data is going to come from these companies' earnings. Okay? If you guys think manufacturing is coming back to the United States, type manufacturing in the chat. I want to know. If you're going to be looking for one of these roles that we're talking about that potentially may be opening up, type search in the chat. I mean, this is an opportunity for you to look for new opportunities. I want to know. And this level of business intelligence, this level of business knowledge, it sets us up perfectly for our guest today, because he navigated exactly this kind of changing job market to transform his career. He navigated a whole bunch of changes with his work for the United States military. And we're going to introduce him to this, okay? So let me do this real quick. And Kamaus, I think your lighting needs to adjust just a little bit more. Looks like it got a little bit darker. But here, let me bring in Kamaus. 1 second. Hold on, guys. Let me get him up here, and let me change my lower thirds. Okay. So ladder climbers, now it's time for a very special part of the show. We're bringing you guys our first guest success story from someone in our community who's used the exact strategies that we talk about every single morning. Meet Kamaus. 24 months ago, he was in a completely different situation. Today, he's crushing it with a career transformation that proves everything that we talked about on this show and how it works. And when you apply it consistently, you can crush it. You can absolutely crush it. It can change your life. And I'm going to ask him some tough questions on his journey. I'm going to ask him about the struggles, the failures, the breakthroughs, and most importantly, the specific steps that you can take to replicate his success. Come on, man. Welcome to the Daily Climb. And I got to say this, man. Thanks so much for being our first guest and sharing your story with the ladder climbers in our community here on YouTube and on X and on Facebook. How you doing today, my man?
Yes, I'm doing great, Mr. Wade. Thanks for having me. I've been watching your show for 4 years, going back to 2021 now. So it's a great honor to be here today.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So you got to take us back 12 to 24 months ago, however far you want to go back. But ultimately, I want you to paint the picture for our audience. Where were you career-wise? Give us an understanding of your salary situation and what did life look like day to day for you?
Yes, so if we go back 2 years ago, that would have been summer 2023. I was still active duty military. I was stationed overseas in Japan, and an E5 salary you can expect to make 50 to $70,000 a year, typically that around that typical range. So I would say probably lower middle class to middle class at best, but I was still enjoying myself while I was in Japan.
Mm, mm. And tell us this: how did your financial situation, how did it feel on you, day to day?
So I wasn't struggling at all, and I did have pretty good habits to where I had strong savings and I was responsible. But the big thing for me was just knew that I was worth more and capable of more since someone with a tech background with a strong collection of certs and then also a graduate degree, since I do have my master's in information systems from WGU, which was recommended to me by this channel, and you were one of the first people to actually. I knew I was worth so much. I knew I was worth a lot more than what I was being paid. And I understood that by making the career transition that I can increase my salary.
Nice, nice, nice. So tell us this: what did while you were in the military, what did your family and friends think about the career that you had when you was in the military active duty?
Well, I will honestly say that most people don't understand at all what people do. There are a lot of people who still ask me about how's the army, and then my response is just going to be like, I don't know, I was never in the army. So that's what I will say for most people overall. The only people who typically understand are those that serve themselves, but their image of me is probably just me either in the battlefield, even though I've never been on a battlefield, or on a ship, if they're familiar with the Navy.
And what was your job inside of the Navy? What did you do particularly?
So yeah, so I did different. So actually, I did work outside of the scope of my assigned job. But my first 6 years, I worked as a database administrator, where I worked in Navy aviation and squadrons and support facilities, where me and a team of people we oversaw the server that was utilized in naval aviation for data management and tracking and analysis.
Nice. So you were doing technology work inside of the Navy.
So yes, that is probably the biggest strength that I did have, and especially in my career transition, was the fact that at 18 years old, I was automatically able to start gaining tech experience doing database administration, systems administration work, and even doing help desk support. But actually, in my last 3 years of service, I actually had to pivot in a different direction. I became a financial program manager, an analyst, where I was overseeing a budget used for, I was in a facility that supported local flights,
Mm-hmm.
and I managed the budget for fuel and equipment.
Nice. And tell me this, Kamal. Um, you decided to leave the
Yes.
United States military. Um, what went into the thought about leaving? You said earlier that you knew that you was worth more, but talk about that. Why you decided to leave, and um, what steps did you take to leave and pursue where you are today?
Yeah, so the first big moment was actually when I signed my second military contract. For me personally, I prefer to have options and not feel as if I'm doing something because I have to. I want to be able to have multiple options and be able to actually choose. But in that moment, actually, this was way back in 2018, I actually was broke with no savings at all and in no plan or no direction. And I
Mm.
understood in that moment that I wasn't necessarily against the military staying in, but just having options and knowing that I could go do something else if I wanted to. But the true change didn't actually start until 2021. And part of that change was I was stationed in Bahrain. And a lot of people have their perceptions of the Middle East, but actually, it was the most wealth that I ever saw in my life. And it was my first time experiencing a luxury lifestyle where I went from growing up. I'm actually originally from North St. Louis County. A lot of people may be familiar with Ferguson. I'm not from Ferguson, but I'm from an area very close by to Ferguson. And that was more working class, lower middle class living, and even bouts of poverty and homelessness at one point, as well as upon joining the military, there was nothing luxury about it at all. I was living in cheap old barracks rooms and on the ship. So that was my first time actually experiencing a luxury lifestyle in the Middle East, living in a luxury apartment. But I understood that while that lifestyle was nice, it was just temporary and it took actual action and hard work to secure that lifestyle permanently. It doesn't just happen overnight at all. And that was the first moment where I understood that I wanted to make a huge shift in my life since I didn't want something nice to go away permanently.
So you saw the life of some of the people who were in Bahrain and how much money that they had, and you were like, I think I want to have somewhat of a similar life like this. And that was kind of like the shift in your mindset, and you were thinking that at that point in time that the military potentially couldn't provide that to you.
Well, not without being an officer, no, or senior enlisted, being in for like 50 million years, no, absolutely not.
Mm,
So, so that was definitely a huge moment. Then in 2021, also, I did get exposed to Kevin Samuel's content, not the content that made him popular, focused on relationships, but his self-improvement content, which focused on teaching. So I know teaching men to look better, to smell better, to also work harder. And one thing he said that stuck with me was, if you don't work at least 60 hours a week, you're lazy.
mm,
And and how I personally interpreted that was that not necessarily literally working 60 hours a week, since I'm all about efficiency, not necessarily just long hours of hard work, but doing things outside of just your regular 9 to 5 to improve your situation. It doesn't have to always just be investing, but just all outside of work, just always be working on something. And if you do that, then that's the ultimate path to actually progressing. Then after watching Kevin Samuels, I watched another YouTuber named Shane Hummus, and a lot of his, I think his content may have changed as well now too, but back then his content focused on degree paths and career fields that you can take, and then how valuable different degrees are, since not all bachelor's degrees are created equally. And surprisingly, despite being a database administrator, I had no clue what management information systems was, although I knew and worked with information systems. And he pretty much just laid it all out. And it just showed that it's one of the best degrees that someone can get. And on top of it being one of the best degrees someone can get, I did further research, and it did actually show management information systems was in the top 10 degrees that earn African Americans the most money. So seeing all those stats, then knowing I had relevant experience, I knew that was the path to go. And then doing further research into management information systems, since it's a very niche topic, is how I found your channel actually. Then upon finding your channel and learning more about you and your background, I did also stalk you on LinkedIn when I first came across you, just to make sure you were who you said you were, but you actually understated your background at that time. You were more than what you said you were. And I ended up going on to book a coaching session. And at that time, I had a bunch of ambitions and ideas, and I think a lot of people find themselves in that space. But instead of just trying to do everything or being overloaded or overstimulated, you help me actually narrow things down and summarize things and have a more clear, clean-cut direction. And that direction was to finish my undergraduate program. Then since I already had, at that time, I already had over 5 years of relevant experience doing my master's, also doing the Google Data Analytics certificate. It's still good now, but at that time it was really hot. So doing those things and also doing projects and then looking into certs to help prepare for the transition. And I just took on that challenge. So for my undergraduate program, I had a huge amount of motivation and sleepless nights. And I took up about maybe 60 credit hours in a span of a year or less.
mm.
Then,
So
then
hold on, Kamal. Hold on, Kamal. That's a lot of information that you're sharing,
yes,
because you are specifically talking about your path,
yes.
and what specific moments that made you say enough was enough, um, and the path that you gone down. So what I basically heard you say is, you came across some content on YouTube that encouraged you to really focus on what you can do in your life to get to the next level. And you had to make a decision, right? Part of it was education. So you decided to research the education piece. I like the fact that you said that, because, you know, I have this educational channel, and a lot of the questions that I get can often be research. It literally can often be research. And then, um, especially with the tools that we have today, tools like AI and so forth. But a lot of people typically don't do the research. They are looking for people to tell them what it is that they should be doing. And one of the things that you said that I heard is that you just took the bull by the horn and executed based on information that you were hearing you went on Shane Hummus's web page and his YouTube, and you found his content, and you came across different types of degrees. You came across management information systems, and that led you down to my channel where I was talking about one of the best degrees that you can get in the academic world if you're going to go to college. And I still think it is one of the best degrees, if not the best degree, because it kind of mixes business and technology. And that's the intersection of where we are. That's why we have this channel that talks about business and technology and, careers and all that other stuff. Right. And that led you to me. But most importantly, you said, all right, let me look up this guy. Let me see if he's what he says he is. And then you booked this coaching session with me. Now, a lot of people may be watching this channel and saying, Antoine this, Antoine that. You can go and check it out on LinkedIn or whatever it is. A lot of people don't do their research. You basically did your research just like if you were applying to a job. If you were going to ask somebody for a reference, if you were going to seek the help of a manager to connect with them to get you inside of a company. Guys, what Kamaus is basically saying, how he explained it, it's the same exact steps that we all should be taking to get to that next position in our careers, to meet that next person that potentially could help us. It's the exact same thing. Do the research, connect, digest the material. And then when you come across somebody who impacts you, do the research on them. Because a lot of people these days, I have to say, aren't who they say they are. So it is important for you to do the research on the individual who you may be influenced by, or who may be digesting. You may be digesting their content. You want to see if they're real or not. And one of the things that Kamaus said about me, because, and I have to get better at this, he said that when he researched me, I undervalue my own skills. And I can tell you this as somebody who has been in the professional career development world for a very long time, but also in the professional world as a corporate employee. That is something that I have to get better at. The tooting and the hollering about the results that I get. And we talk about how a lot of these executives in some of these companies, they do that. Well, that's selling. That's ultimately selling yourself. That's how you get the opportunities in your life. That's how you get that next job. That's how you get discovered, is by sharing your results. And I love that you said that, Kamaus. But continue on. I mean, like, you were influenced by my content. You were influenced by KS's content. You were influenced by Shane Hummus' content. You digested it. You decided you wanted to make connections. It led you down the path of getting a degree. Led you down the path of going down, looking into Coursera for Google certifications, and continue on.
Yes. So progressing onward. So once we made the plan at that point, so at that next step, the main purpose at that point was just to execute at that point, and also incorporating the networking piece into it. And I did ultimately join the Black Heights community and YouTube channel since. One huge lesson that I can say I learned on my journey so far is you have to be willing. So people who you want to be in the room with, sometimes you have to pay for their time. And also you have to be willing to invest in yourself. And it will typically come back tenfold if you invest in yourself early on. And pressing onward, all I had to do was execute. So I completed my undergraduate degree. So actually, this is actually another thing I recommend people look up is if you're into actually wanting to pursue your degree, look into what you call college hacking, where with college hacking, learning how to earn a bunch of transfer credits and test out of courses, then also finding programs where you can actually accelerate your degree. Looking back.
And tell me this, Kamaus. Sorry to interrupt you, sir. When you explain this, tell people how much time did it take you to complete that step? Because you're still in the military when this is going on, right?
Yes. Yes, still active duty at this time.
And tell people how much time it took you to take each one of these major steps.
Yes, so getting my undergraduate degree, it took me about 2 years, but Looking back, I could have finished it faster if I would have went to WGU for undergrad instead. I would have finished in 6 months, and my education would still have the same value that it does now. So
Mm,
that is one thing I will say, and I will say for people, once you go to school, I have seen a habit where even I found myself doing this, where being comfortable to stay in school to kind of hide from the real world, I would just say get in and get out as efficiently as possible.
mm, mm. I love
So
that.
I will say that's my mentality for school. And right after undergrad, I did end up going to WGU. I got it right the second time, and I did my master's in information systems at WGU. And that degree I finished in 1 semester. And also, I won the Academic Excellence Award for my capstone. So it was a great success. And actually, for my undergrad, I used tuition reimbursement through the military and the Pell Grant. But for the master's degree, I just paid $4,000 out of pocket one time. So one time just paid $4,000 out of pocket, earned my undergrad and master's degrees without taking out any debt, and actually technically made money since the Pell Grant. I qualified for the full amount. I will say for people, take advantage of that because I do see it looks like it's slowly going away.
Mm. So you talked about money there. You said you paid about $4,000 for your master's degree. You leverage your military, um, education, program in order for you to get your undergrad degree. You did that in about 2 years. How much money did you invest into your transformation?
So definitely well, so outside of school, I also pay out of pocket for various certifications. Also to expand my network, I did join one of the D9 Black college fraternities, the Kappa, since I know it's a traditional established network, and that did further expand my network. So really, I would say probably but it's over the span of 4 years, probably around 15 to $20,000.
Mm, mm, but you did it the way where you just said, okay, well, I'm going to focus on the things that are important for me versus having to, go to a 4 year university where you are paying about $20,000 per year,
So yeah.
to get out in with $80,000 or $40,000 worth of debt if it's $10,000 a year. And you did it over a certain amount of time, leveraging the resources that was available to you and executed on it.
So yes, absolutely. So yes, absolutely. So actually, it is kind of crazy even to think that I spent $15,000 on resources, but the fact that people spend $100,000 just for the piece of paper is even more insane. And the biggest thing that I can say is all the money that I invested into my journey, I've already made that back and more. So it's not a huge deal at all. All it did was just give me a multitude of credentials and networks as well as improving my skills. So even just simply with YouTube University and Coursera and Udemy, you can learn all the skills that you talk about right there with
Mm.
right easily. Even now, the big thing is AI. You can easily get on YouTube and learn AI with no problem.
How did you balance all of this, right, while still working and still being in the active, being an active military member?
So it's definitely not easy at all, and it's something that most people won't do. But one thing I think everybody eventually has to accept is success, especially when you don't come from wealth. I know, Mr. Way, you understand when you don't come from wealth, success takes sacrifice. And I will be honest and say I did have moments where it was extremely hard since I did find myself getting off of work, working on schoolwork or working on certifications or studying or projects the entire night, then sleeping for maybe like 2 hours and then going to work the next day. And those were very tough moments where I had to do things like that even before I stayed up all night and then went to work after doing schoolwork. That was definitely very hard, but it takes sacrifice. And because I did those things then, I don't have to worry about that now.
Mm, mm. And say this now. So you've did all that. You sacrificed. You spent the money. You spent, the additional years. You got the education. Tell people where you are now.
Yeah, so now I'm working as a business data analyst, government contractor, not as a federal employee, but as a government contractor, meaning I just work through a private company and I provide data analytics and business analysts and project management services to the government, working on various projects, programs, and initiatives. I will say that my salary has increased since then, now working as a business data analyst. And now I'm in a strong position where I have a nice salary. And then also on top of that, I do work remotely. That was one of the biggest things that I wanted. Most people were chasing salary, but people in the military, once you want to get out, we actually chase the lifestyle since we don't want to relive the work environment where it's just strict and a lot of rules and being on site and having people breathing down your neck. But now it's completely opposite where I work remotely now. All I have to do is just sign in and I have my autonomy and also even the potential to travel locally occasionally. So that's more so what I wanted was my autonomy. Then also on top of that, I was able to choose where I wanted to live at, and they allowed me to move to Oklahoma. The reason I chose Oklahoma since it's a low cost state, so I don't have to pay $1,000 or $2,000 a month for a studio apartment like people in cities like Los Angeles. To me, that's pretty crazy. Instead, I'm able to live here. It's a place where if you're middle class, you can afford to buy a good amount of house. So I did actually buy my first property recently. It's actually a multi-unit property.
Mm.
So not only am I a W-2 employee, but I'm also a landlord. And also now I'm working with a group of people within my network, and we're actually trying to launch our real estate business as well. So I transitioned from just being an employee and a low enlisted military service member to being a landlord and a business owner now.
So, man, that's big time, Kamal. You get out of the military, you got a job, and I want you to tell people that part of it, right? Like, talk about the transformation timeline from the moment you got out to the moment you are in getting that job, and then obviously, I know the story, but I think others should hear the story as well, where you just recently became a landlord, where you invested the money that you've earned over the years to buy your first, rental property.
Yes, absolutely. The transition, so I would say once we got into 2024 and my contract ended at the end of the year in November, that's when I know was able to put the plan into hyperdrive. I learned about a military transition program called Skill Bridge. If anybody's in the
Mm.
military wants to join, it's a big program where you actually can be matched with companies or with nonprofit organizations to get education and job training which can potentially turn into a job opportunity. But for me, since I was in Japan at the time, I was very strategic. I intentionally chose a program where I knew I wouldn't have to do anything at all, really. So that way, and actually, the program, one of the certs I had to get was the Google Data Analytics cert, but I already had it. So all I did was use that time to apply for jobs and spend a lot of time on my resume. At that time, I did have a lot more calls with you. And also, I actually have another mentor as well through another nonprofit military mentorship program called ACP. So I was talking to 3+ people during my transition, just having a lot of assistance with the job application process, interviews, and then also even making connections with people and getting referrals. And I did that consistently. I did follow your strategy. Well, actually, I did your strategy, but I did still do pray and spray for jobs I wasn't interested in. Pray and spray, where you just shoot out your resume to a bunch of job opportunities. But the most of the interviews I did get was still from the 5 targeted resumes that I did per day, which you recommended versus the pray and spray method. I can say that. And doing so, I did ultimately go on to actually land interviews, and also my workplace, they were supportive of my transition as well. So I was able to be fully transparent with everyone. I actually started looking for jobs 6 months before my contract ended, starting in May of last year.
Mm.
And and then I actually secured my job position by July, and I started in August, actually 3 months before my contract ended. And I was actually surprised I was allowed to do so, but they actually approved and allowed me to temporarily work in Japan since I had access to the materials and things needed in order to do the job.
So
So
how
actually,
long did it take you, Kamal, to to land a job when you started the attempt, the approach, the strategies that we put together? How long did it take you?
it took me 2 months.
Wow.
But but even though it took me 2 months, I will admit that I did get one opportunity lined up early on, but I did choose to forego it since it wasn't fitting of my situation of what I wanted. But to find the job that I actually wanted, that was the perfect fit, 2 months.
Why do you think it took 2 months? Was it was it your resume? Was it the fact that you were, just out of the military? Was it the fact that you looked good? What was it? What was it that you think that, it took you 2 months? Because I'm I'm all over the internet when it comes down to this career stuff. I'm looking at people's TikTok videos. We review them on this channel. I'm looking at people's YouTube videos. We review them on this channel. Um, why did it only take you about 2 months to land a job where the industry right now is saying 6 months? You even got people who are just out of college, right? They're fresh out of college, just graduated this summer. It took you 2 months to land a job from the time that you were looking to find one that's paying you very, very well. Um, I'm dropping a video later on today about a gentleman who is a manager, or was a manager at Accenture, making over 180,000, and he can't even get hired at Chick-fil-A. Why did it take you 2 months, you think? You talked about pray and spray. You talked about pinpointing, but give us the real reason why it took you 2 months, you think?
I'll say the first and the major reason is having relevant experience. I think a lot of people in the job market are trying to land opportunities where they don't already have relevant experience. I would
Mm,
say that's the number one thing where I was looking for data analytics jobs, but I already had a lot of transferable skills. And then I also did go through the process of knowing how to communicate those transferable skills in a way that a non-military person at the time would actually be able to understand the value of what it is that I did, and then also being able to connect it how it's relevant to that position. So I would say that's the first major thing. The next thing is I planned ahead. I didn't wait until I didn't have a job to start looking. I started looking while I still had my current military position at the time. So since I do know a lot of people wait until right before they got out the service or afterwards, or the same thing with people in the workforce, where a lot of the time they may know that a job may be ending soon, but they'll wait until they're out of a job before they start looking. So I would just say if you know that an opportunity is ending, make sure that you're always looking at the next opportunity at that point. I'll say
mm.
that's the thing. The next thing is I will say a big part of it too is because I invested in myself, and part of that is networking. A lot of time it's just talking to people and asking questions. And a lot of the time people think networking is attending events and using imposter syndrome to meet a bunch of people. But a lot of the time networking is just talking to the people you already know and seeing who they know. Since even one friend that I had from high school, I was talking to her since she was looking to get into project management. And then I told her, oh, I'm planning to get out and be a business analyst. And she said, oh, my husband's a business analyst. And that was a conversation right there where it was somebody already doing what I was trying to do, that I was able to have a phone conversation with and speak to. And actually, I did meet them and see them in person last year. So just something like that. And even a lot of conversations are had over dinner or at leisurely events, not always just cold messaging people on LinkedIn.
I
I'll
love
say
it.
that's probably so I'll say that's a huge part. Then also actually working with people to land a job. I worked with multiple people. So actually a year before I left the military, I worked with someone who was a military veteran working as a data analyst, who was a retired Marine officer. He helped me revamp my resume. Then also I fed it through different people in the ladder climbers community. Actually, Brother Malik Grandin, he actually was one of the first people to actually update. So he looked at what I had and one of the first people to update it, then also passed it through you. So my resume did get seen by multiple people that I knew who made edits and fixes, and just talking to people and learning. and then preparing ahead of time. So once I started the job search, I already had an updated LinkedIn, I already had an updated resume, and I already had people to work with. So at that point, all I had to do was execute from start to finish.
It sounded like it was a whole bunch of planning and preparation. Kamal. I mean, like one of the
Except
things that I love about our conversations. So you and I have an opportunity to talk to each other, at least once a month, right? And it may expand beyond that. But you are intentional. You are very intentional with what you want to accomplish. You set a goal and you actually go out there and execute on it. There's not very many people who can do that, especially with being the age that you're at, Kamal, being very, very young, right? And that's what I admire about you is the fact that you are intentional about what you want to accomplish. You set a goal and you go out there and attack it and accomplish it. I don't think matter of fact, there isn't anything that you said that you were going to accomplish that hasn't happened, to the point where whenever you say something, when we are having our monthly check-ins or whatever it is, and you bring it up, I'm like, you're going to get it. Like, and it has literally come to that every single time. And, you know, that's the bright spots. I want you to kind of talk about any of because, many people will listen to this and say, oh man, this is great, Antoine. But did you have any dark moments, like any obstacles that you faced, like from job rejections or just any things that you were doing that took an emotional toll when you were going through this transition at all, like your lowest point, because that can help people as well. But I don't know if you had any, but you tell me, did you have any dark moments?
So I would say my challenging experiences were before I truly locked in, since I would say 2021 was when I truly locked in, but most of my challenges were
Mm,
before that period. So yes, I didn't have any dark moments during that period, but before. So even I would say growing up. So like growing up, having an unstable environment led to me doing poorly in school, and then also having a lot of habits that since one thing I know a lot of people don't like to accept, but poverty and struggling a lot of time it so is a part of the habits that we develop and have, and unfortunately we do get it from our relatives a lot of the time. So the first challenge was perpetuating the cycle of poverty and also coming from a place where I didn't perform well academically when I was young due to childhood challenges. And then people can look it up. North St. Louis County, it's a working class area with some areas actually being places I wouldn't even go now and I'm from there, which says a lot. So just understanding that, and then just so understanding that, and that was very challenging. And actually, before joining the military, I was actually homeless and couch surfing before I was in the military, working fast food, and that was a very hard moment, and it was one of the first moments that made me sad that I wanted to change. Then, while I was in the military, I will say one thing that did push me to get out was I didn't always get the outcomes that I believe that I deserve from the military, where even though I was accomplishing a lot of things outside of the military, at work for a long time, I wasn't getting recognized at all. And it was so some of the reasons was on me. I wasn't doing certain things like tooting my own horn. I just worked quietly in the background, and I learned a hard lesson then where one of the people who worked next to me, he didn't have knowledge or work ethic, but what he did have was a great winning personality.
mm,
And he got promoted and I didn't.
mm, mm.
Now, so that was those were very telling moments. And then also even challenges just in the workplace and dealing with different types of people. And then even stuff that we may see like workplace politics, people wanting to succeed over you and playing dirty games, dealing with all of that, then also dealing with actual work, also managing and maintaining work stresses as well. I did deal with a lot of that, but those moments where I had those really hard times fueled for once I did actually lock in.
I love it, man. I love it. You were down a path early on of not having any direction, but I would say the military helped with that because it allowed for you to become disciplined, but then you had the curiosity to explore self-improvement as a young man, and then took initiative to execute on it. And now you were at that point where, you're out of the United States Navy, and you are crushing it as remind me again, a data analyst, a senior data analyst, right?
Yes, I'll be in the mid to senior level.
Yeah. And you know, roughly explain to the audience what you typically, or what you do, and how much you make as a senior data analyst or a mid senior data analyst.
So I would say so I would say my job actually, so I know a lot of people don't know the difference between business analysts and data analysts, but just to make things quick and simple, data analysts answer business questions with data. Business analysts use technology and tools to improve company processes and procedures. So now for my actual job, it actually mixes both. Where my actual position is it's processing funding requests to actually fund the various programs within the government, and then also using that financial data to create reports and insights for the company. Then also doing a lot of process improvement projects, a lot of them centered around AI. And I actually did, even though it's outside of the scope of my job, I did do the business analyst portion for us revamping one of our company websites. And then I actually did get to act as the program who actually designed it afterwards. I would say that's the primary scope of my job. So a lot of data analytics, reports, process improvements, and then also authorizing and processing funding for programs and projects.
Mm. And roughly how much does a position like that pay?
So yeah, so I'll say for business analysts at the senior level, somebody can expect 90 to 120,000 typically depending on location, but you can potentially make more, of course, if you're in a high cost of living city, or of course, if you work at a company like Microsoft or Google, you're going to be making $200,000 a year doing the same exact position. But one big reason that inspired me to go down this path was because a lot of business analysts, data analysts go on to be program managers and product owners, and those positions definitely pay 150K or more, even a lot of the times over 200K on average. And then especially if it's in AI, those numbers balloon up really quickly.
So you went from making $50,000 a year in the military to over doubling that now.
So yeah, so it's definitely a huge change where I'm definitely more strongly in the middle class compared to before. And even here, even here, when people think of locations, I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma, making not, I would say making $80,000 here is like making six figures on the East Coast.
Mm, mm.
So even an underpaid business analyst here would still technically be in a six-figure earner making 80K a year here by standards in cities like Atlanta or Dallas or Houston.
Wow, wow, wow. I love that you said that. You didn't say how much money you were making, but we got a glimpse into it that you're over the six-figure mark. But if somebody was underpaid and was looking to make around $80,000 and living in Tulsa, they would be still making a good amount of money because of where the location is, the cost of living in a place like Tulsa, Oklahoma. And by the way, I think Tulsa, Oklahoma is a very good city. I love Oklahoma City. We pass through there every single time we go to St. Louis. Many of you guys don't know, but I'm an investor into St. Louis. So when Kamaus talks about North St. Louis, I had a smile on my face. And it wasn't because of where he's from. It's because I know where he's from and I invest in properties in those areas. One of the things that we talk about as ladder climbers is owning real estate. And when I was in St. Louis a couple months ago, I had an opportunity to talk to Kamaus and share with him where we were. And he knew exactly where we were because that's where he grew up. But guys, that's ultimately what ladder climbing is. That's what the Heights community allows for you to see and develop a keen eye for one, personal development, professional development, talking to people like Kamal in the community, and being able to get to ultimately where you want to get to. That's what we offer here at BOK Heights, and we're going to be changing the name to Next Gen Heights within a matter of a month. But fantastic story, Kamal. Absolutely fantastic story. You went from, a $50,000 man in the military, and now you are over a six-figure man, and you have a rental property. You're living in a low-cost area. You have the remote freedom and luxuries that you have. You get to travel. I know where you travel. You don't want to say where you travel, but I know where you travel. And that sounds like the perfect situation for people. But what's next? What's next for you? Obviously, one of the things that you talked about was, when you chose this sort of career, business analyst, data analyst, there's a career progression, program management, product management. What's next for you?
Yeah, so I'm currently studying for the PMP. I'm looking to take the exam in October, and long-term career-wise, I do want to get more into project management since I know that with AI, I know that's a strong path and direction since there are going to be a lot of projects centered around integrating AI into companies across all industries in general. And so I definitely want to ride that wave. Then on top of that, I also plan on starting on my PhD in information systems and data analytics next year, since one thing I do want to do is get into more research. And also on top of that, I do see how adjunct professors can work remotely and still have other obligations, and it's a part-time remote opportunity. And I'll just use that as another passive income stream, then as well as continuing to expand my real estate portfolio. And then I'll say long term. So I'll say probably 3 years from now, I will aim to once I reach my other goals that I plan to hit, I do want to start my own IT and data analytics consulting firm.
Mm, mm. Wow. You're ambitious, man. You are absolutely ambitious. I love it. I absolutely love it, man. Um, that's what Jason says. Unwavering diligence. I mean, like that. In NC Realtor say great information. Jason says, "Congrats, come on. Thank you for your service." Um,
Thank you.
Jason also said, excellent positioning of resources. Yeah, I mean, like everybody's basically saying, yes, good stuff here, man. You got to say this, come on, right? What do you think about the transitioning that's happening right now in the tech space? And I know you got to get off shortly. I do too. But
Yes.
um, what do you think that's with the transition that's happening in the tech space? What are some things that you will give to the community? Some thoughts you have, some opinions that you have regarding the transition of the technology world that we're seeing today, how fast it's transitioning into more of an AI centric world. You see companies like Microsoft that investing heavily into AI and automation and cloud and data and all that. And they're paying these people significant amounts of money, and other employees are being let go. You see Cisco last night, they, beat earnings, but they're cutting 7% of their workforce, although, their orders for AI infrastructure is ballooning. Give us your opinions there.
Yeah, so I'll say the first thing is just what used to work yesterday doesn't work today.
Mm,
So that's probably the biggest thing. So things people used to do in the past, even a lot of the way I did things even a year ago, I would have had to adjust some just because of how much that's changed in the past year. And how I treat politics and the job market and how in the state of the economy is just treat it like how we treat the weather. Sometimes it's sunny and good, enjoy those times, but whenever the weather changes, you just have to adjust and adapt. And that's the biggest thing now is just adapting to the new job market and skills. So I would say just always follow the money and the opportunities, and then just where the opportunities were at before, that's going to change in the future. So I would say for most people, be prepared to pivot, or at least understanding how you can use AI in your job to improve your work performance and efficiency at least. since there are a lot of tasks in your job that you can do more efficiently, which is ultimately going to make you more valuable. But I would say at this point, the first step would just be to use AI consistently every day.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So, guys, I'm like, this was Kamaus' transformation journey. Um, and it happened in this exact same market conditions that we're seeing now. Companies investing in AI while cutting traditional roles, manufacturing potentially coming back to America. 70% of workers considering career changes. Successful career changers seeing 15 to 65% salary increases. This is Kamau. This is an example of Kamau. Okay. And this could be you. I'm like, based on Kamau's story today, right? If I was to leave you for an action plan for this week, for today, it's just research companies that are hiring and growing in industries, AI, advanced manufacturing, healthcare technology, supply chain technology. Start building those skills that companies actually need. And it starts with AI tools, cloud computing, data analyses like Kamal is talking about. One of the first things that he did was a Google Data Analytics certification, and that was a couple years ago. And this is something that has benefited him. He also talked about networking with people who've made successful transitions. He's talked to people who husbands were a business analyst, data analyst at the time. He joined communities. He attended events. He connected on LinkedIn. He stalked me, right? He created a financial plan for the transition, right? He already had a job for his transition when he was in the military. He saved money. He reduced his expenses. He prepared for the investment in the future. And little do you know, he gets out of the military and now he's a landlord. He has a W-2. He's crushing it, right? Now he's working and partnering with friends who are going to start their real estate company, right? So these are the little things that you can start doing today. That's going to benefit you for the next 5 to 10 years. And it starts with small steps. But most importantly, it starts with starting. Start by starting. A lot of people don't want to start. And they say, you know what, I'm going to wait till tomorrow. I'm going to wait till next week. I'm going to wait till the new year. No, start by starting. You are not going to get anywhere unless you start. And if you start today, you're going to be much further ahead than if you were to start January 1st, 2026. You're going to be much further ahead than if you were to start, the day after Christmas. Start by starting and start by starting now. I mean, this stuff it's moving fast. If you want to ultimately get to the money, you have to start it. And I don't care if it's just starting to prepare for a career transition or starting that you want to start your side hobby of doing what I'm doing right now and educating you all. Start by starting. But guys, that was the show for you guys today. I appreciate you for coming on, Kamal.
Thank you for having me.
We have tomorrow's preview. We're going to cover the end of the week business intelligence, Deere and Applied Materials earnings results and what they mean for jobs, the weekly job market data and hiring trends, action steps, and we're going to also digest some stories that I came across on the internet, on TikTok, of people not being able to find jobs. But if they're part of this community, they certainly would. They'd be able to access people like Kamal, give them the game. Guys, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining in today. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Much love to you all. We will see you guys tomorrow morning. And until next time, guys, peace. Have a fantastic day today. Go out there and crush it. It is Monday at 8:14, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Bye now.